Now I know the top end's toast on this, but the real question here is, do you have to go in, put a bottom end in the saw or not? But I'm going to give it a chance. And plus it gives me an opportunity to put a vac test on the camera, you know. The shop tools, they give you these nice cool plugs, right? And then this one here sets right down inside. Well, it's dropping pretty quick. Well, shoot. Look at that. So I don't know if I can legitimately say that that bottom end's going to be sound or not. Connecting rod seems alright. But did it survive all that? I don't know. Well, I think spring is right around the corner. Of course, this is central New York, so you just never know what you're going to get. But things are melting, and there's mud now, and just a little bit of snow. Most of the snow is gone. So I think what I want to do today is I just want to do some test cuts. I really don't have a good test log. Bob and I were out here a couple of weeks back. I have a mess to clean up. I have to turn all that into stacked and split firewood. You know, I got a head start of it on it over there, but I've got a lot more to go. And there might be a saw log in there too. I might start thinking about doing another cut to generate a little bit of play money. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fuel up the saw, and maybe I'll take my work saw out there too, just so there's a comparison. Actually, that's not a bad idea. That's my 271 original edition 372 style saw that has a XPW top end as well. And they should run roughly the same. I guess there is some video worthy differences, you know. This one here has a smaller carburetor. This one has the larger X-Torque carburetor and tweaked intake boot and the more aggressive muffler mod. So neither one of them have a fresh chain. Both of them have got chains that are marginal at best, but both make chips. So I guess I'll just fire them up and take a couple of test cuts where I can. And the goal really isn't one versus the other as much as it is just getting a sense as to one relative to the other. They should be roughly the same. If there's a big difference between them, well, there are three things that could make that happen, and I don't expect it to happen. One, like I said, this one here has got the larger carburetor. Two, this one here has been broken in. It's got a lot of time on it. It's got probably 10, 15 tanks. And three, they have the different ignitions. This one has the X-Torque ignition, which is rev limited to the lower RPM. And I believe this has a black one, but I did not turn it up because it's an XPW top end and doesn't want to be turned up. It's roughly 13,000 RPM no load is what I have it set to. So I don't think the ignition should make any difference at all because they're both tuned to roughly the same no load RPM. But like I said, the only mechanical difference between those two saws, other than they came from different roots, one being original edition, the other being X-Torque, is that carburetor on that saw right there. Top ends are the same. Well, I was a little more aggressive on this muffler than I was on that one, but internally. But other than that, they're roughly the same. They should run about the same. So let's see. strong saw right there. I think the X-Torque build is stronger than this one, but I think this one here has a lousier chain too, so they may be skewing it a little bit. I didn't catch it, but that's what I set it to right there. That's max. So it's running a little bit fat, but you know something? We may still have some winter left, so I will always do that, you know, set a little fat then lean. Good running saw right there, and it does respond to the carburetor. And that's good, because one of the things you check for when you're doing a build like that is if the system can deliver enough fuel. And I've got that high speed turned out quite a bit in order to get to that 12.9. It wanted to bounce right off the rev limiter. I saw 13.4 on it, which is, that's too much. But part of that's because of the larger carburetor and the modified exhaust. If that cylinder was ported, where I opened up those transfers, it'd be happy up there. But with those small transfer ports, if I set the tune to get to 14,000, it's going to be on the lean side. Just simply not enough going to the top end. So I'm going to leave it right where it is, 12.9. He'll come back and say it's running a little bit fat, especially in the summertime. But by that time it's broke in and I can really set it properly. So that's how it's going out the door, just like you see it. Good running saw. That's a very successful build right there. Alright, I got 2 bars. On that battery. Let's see if we can take down that dead stump there. See if you can see anything wrong with that fuel line right there. And, which I don't see often, those being peeled back like that, because it really comes up through these, you know, these guides right here. So this one actually wasn't in there. So somebody had put it in, it was crammed in between. So I guess I'm going to pull it apart and put a heat shrink on that, keep that ignition. But Either way, the saw got toasted, and I think that's the culprit right there. I think that kinked right off, and that's it. These are easy to work on. I like these. These are the Husqvarna 576s. This one happens to be a non-auto tune, which is rare. I don't see them often. I usually see the auto tunes. There are some people who prefer these over the auto tunes. I don't know. I like the auto tune version, but nice saw. I mean, these are great saws. I guess I'll just throw the video camera on and tear it down and change that top end out. That's a fairly specialized screw right there. Look at that. It's got a shoulder on it and everything. Boy, you don't want to lose those. I think this is one of those saws that has certainly passed the test of time. Look at these rings. But if you look at the thickness there, I can tell you right now that's like half of what a stock one is. This thing here just wore out. Just ran and ran and ran until it wore out. See that? You can never forget that. Gotta make sure you have that thing in there. Made in Germany. Nice looking part. One of the things I've seen more recently, it's hard for you to tell, but the squish band is a little bit better on these than in the past. Last video was complaining a little bit about having a fight with one of the steels. I didn't do as good a job as I wanted to. And I've just finished doing a couple of 562s, and this is a 576. And I think here's the clear difference, right? On the one, the dam is either attached right to the carburetor, like this. This is a Husqvarna 576. And a lot of it's actually in the top cover, so the dam comes off with the top cover, and all the intake stuff is attached right to the cylinder. And I can work on this off the saw, and then after I've got the intake stuff assembled, I can drop it onto the case. With these, that makes it a lot more difficult because you got to poke you got to poke that stuff through the air box in order to make it work, you know. Here's a pulse line that goes onto the... It's not that it's impossible. It's just that it makes it a little bit more awkward when you want to work on them. And we're not talking like orders of magnitude here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slamming on steel. I'm just saying that as compared to the older Huskies, this more complex layout, just a little more difficult to work on, you know. And this is probably the last of the Huskies that are going to be really easy to work on. The new ones are a whole lot more complex. Another thing I want to point out while we're looking at saws, again, this is a 576. This is a steel 461 cylinder, all right? They're nice running saws. Worked on them and I kind of like them. Same basic size saw. And notice these long transfers on the Husky. Kind of see what steel did. Look at all that cooling fin area on the Husqvarna. Which of these saws do you think is a little bit lighter? Okay. Maybe a better analysis is just direct as compared to having all that stuff on there. Now this is also funny. I don't know if you noticed, I stuck the ring in there, and check that in gap. That's what came out of this saw. This saw here just wore itself out, you know, it just ran and ran and ran. This is the intake side. This is a 576. This is a 461. No strato on this. Strato on this. But the steels are doing the same kind of things. They're beginning to morph towards those longer transfers. They go up around the exhaust port. I just find it interesting. But what's really, really interesting is if you look inside is on how much more transfer area is open on this steel than on the Husky. Gonna get myself in trouble, so I better shut up right now. Alright, here is a 562. 576, 562. So this is kind of what they evolved into. But look how they've integrated it right around the exhaust. I just find that interesting. And of course what they've done on the different versions is they have either larger cross-sectional area or more of a bulge on this, on the, say, the 562 versus the 555, to accommodate the higher RPMs that the 562 runs. Just interesting stuff. This is kind of a bridge design to these. Husky's been at this for a while. And this was Steel's kind of halfway design, where it didn't get into strato just yet. 461s. I like the 461s. You know? Nice running saw. So are these. I'm going to start listening to my race, so. Alright, so I just filmed this, and a couple of key points is that you notice that I was able to assemble the cylinder and all the intake stuff and then drop it on. And that's like the older Husqvarnas. They've maintained that through this series. The newer ones are not quite as easy to work on as these, but I love these saws. I mean, these are awesome. I would have to say that the 576 is even easier to work on than a 372. If you just watch what I did, don't pay attention to the funny shapes, just watch what I was able to do with this saw, pulling the top end and then putting another entire top end on, going through the carburetor and all that. I mean, that's a very, very, very easy saw to work on right there. I like these, I really do. I'm gambling a little bit because it has all the time. I'm hoping it doesn't have any bottom end issues. I mean, having that much time on it, it's possible that it does. But just the signs that I saw, it didn't give me any sense that that is the problem. So I just did a top end on it. And that was even before I pulled it and saw this freaking ring that had an end gap of about an inch. Well, okay, 150 thousandths. So seeing that kind of problem when it finally came to a stop, plus that kinked fuel line, I don't really feel the need to delve into the bottom end just yet. Well, it passed the brake clean test too, so I shot a bunch of brake clean up in there, and so I think the bottom end is fine. I'm going to leave it right alone. So this is another saw done. I'll stick it together and make a couple of test cuts. Looks to me like the tune is a little rich, but you know something? That's a good place for it to be to break in. Chain brake's a little stiff, but they didn't give me the authority to go tear into that, so I'm not going to. One of the other things I like about the 576 and just that whole series of Husqvarnas is there's some interchangeability. 576, 372. Looks a lot alike, doesn't it? I'm going to leave it right where it is. Yeah, that's what's on my bench today, is digging in a road, and I dug in some trenches up on the hill for drainage. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to cut the road to my right hand side so I can drain it off to the right and make it drain better. That's about all. drainage up there, and I need to cut up through here a little bit, you know, so I catch the water and get it down the right side of the road.